We are going to discuss magnetic circuits, and magnetic circuits are analogous to electrical circuits. So, as the magnetic circuits are analogous to electrical circuits, it is very easy to find out the unknown quantities in the magnetic circuits. We discuss the magnetic flux. What is a magnetic flux? Magnetic flux is represented by phi. The unit of the magnetic flux is Weber, and it is a scalar quantity. We consider a fixed isolated north pole over here. We assume that this is an isolated north pole and this north pole is fixed in position. It cannot move from one place to another place. There will be a magnetic field in the vicinity of this isolated north pole. We place another isolated movable north pole in the magnetic field of the fixed one. So definitely the isolated movable north pole will move along this path due to the force of repulsion. So there will be a force of repulsion on the movable isolated north pole, and due to this force of repulsion, the movable north pole will move along this path. So this path, which is followed by a movable isolated north pole in the given magnetic field, is known as magnetic flux. So magnetic flux is basically the path which is followed by an isolated north pole in a magnetic field. If we place the movable isolated north pole over here, this isolated north pole will follow this path due to the force of repulsion. Similarly, if we place the movable isolated north pole over here, it will follow this path due to the force of repulsion. If we place it over here, it will follow this path due to the force of repulsion. If we place it over here, we know that this isolated north pole will follow this path due to the force of repulsion. So we can change the position of the isolated north pole in the given magnetic field, and we can draw as many lines as we want. So these lines represents the magnetic flux, and magnetic flux is basically the line or the path which is followed by an isolated north pole in a magnetic field. Let us define magnetic flux density. Well, we are going to define the magnetic flux density, and magnetic flux density is a vector quantity. So this path gives you the magnetic flux. The magnetic flux is defined as the path which is followed by an isolated north pole in a magnetic field is known as magnetic flux. As far as you see this arrow is concerned, this arrow gives you the direction of three vector quantities. This arrow gives you the direction of the magnetic flux density. We know that magnetic flux density is a vector quantity. So This arrow gives you the direction of the magnetic flux density. This arrow gives you the direction of the magnetic field intensity, and this arrow gives you the direction of the magnetic force on this isolated north pole. So as far as the arrow is concerned, this arrow gives you the directions of these three vector quantities. This arrow gives you the direction of the magnetic flux density, it gives you the direction of the magnetic field intensity, and it gives you the direction of the magnetic force. So we define magnetic flux density. Magnetic flux density is a vector quantity. Magnetic flux density is represented by B. The unit of the magnetic flux density is Weber per square meter or Tesla. We consider a surface over here, and we assume that the area of this rectangular surface is a square meter. And you see the magnetic flux passes through this surface normally. All these lines of magnetic force are perpendicular to the given surface. So the lines of magnetic force are passing through this surface. We want to calculate the magnetic flux density at any point in this magnetic field. So the flux per unit area is known as magnetic flux density. The magnetic flux density at any point in the given magnetic field will be equal to the total magnetic flux passing through this area, passing through this surface, divided by the area of this rectangular surface. So the magnetic flux per unit area is known as magnetic flux density. And you see, if you want to calculate the magnetic flux passing through this area, we can calculate it with the help of this particular equation. The magnetic flux passing through this area will be equal to the magnetic flux density multiplied by the area of this rectangular surface. So this is how we calculate the magnetic flux density at any point in the given magnetic field, and this is how we calculate the magnetic flux passing through this particular area. Now we want to calculate the magnetic flux density with the help of another technique. We consider a very small portion of this area, which is represented by dA. So we consider a very small portion of this area which is represented by dA. The area of this small portion is represented by dA. And the magnetic flux which passes through this small portion is represented by d phi. So the magnetic flux density at any point in this magnetic field can be calculated with the help of these two quantities as well. d phi is known as the differential magnetic flux and dA is known as the differential area. So the magnetic flux density at any point in this magnetic field will be equal to the differential area passing through this differential surface divided by the area of the differential surface. So the magnetic flux density at any point in the given magnetic field can be calculated with the help of this particular equation as well. We consider the differential flux passing through the differential portion of the given surface, and we consider the area of the differential portion. So the differential flux passing through the small portion of the area divided by the area of the small portion will give you the magnetic flux density. And if we want to calculate the differential magnetic flux passing through the differential area, we can calculate the differential magnetic flux with the help of this particular equation as well. The differential magnetic flux will be equal to BdA. We know the well-known relationship between the magnetic flux density and the magnetic field intensity. Now we are going to discuss a very simple magnetic circuit. Magnetic circuit is analogous to electric circuit. The magnetic quantities which are analogous to electrical quantities are given in table 7.1. So you see the voltage in an electrical circuit is analogous to MMF in a magnetic circuit. Voltage is represented by V, and MMF, which is basically magnetomotive force, is represented by MMF, and that is equal to Ni. The unit of MMF is ampere turns. The current in electrical circuit is analogous to the magnetic flux in the magnetic circuit. We know that the current is represented by I, the unit of the current is ampere, and the magnetic flux is represented by phi, and the unit of the magnetic flux is Weber. The resistance in an electrical circuit is a property, and this is the property of a material. The property due to which the material opposes the flow of current is known as resistance. So resistance is analogous to reluctance. So reluctance is the property of a material due to which it opposes the flow of magnetic flux. अगर किसी सर्किट का रेजिस्टेंस ज़्यादा होगा उस सर्किट में कम करंट फ्लो करेगा. सिमिलरली अगर किसी मटेरियल का रिलक्टेंस ज़्यादा होगा उस मटेरियल में कम मैग्नेटिक फ्लक्स फ्लो होंगे. द फ्लो ऑफ द मैग्नेटिक फ्लक्स विल बी वेरी स्मॉल. Conductivity in the electrical circuit is analogous to permeability in the magnetic circuit. So let us consider a very simple electrical circuit is shown in this particular figure. This is a very simple electrical circuit. We apply KVL to this particular circuit. According to KVL, the voltage across the source will be equal to the voltage across the resistor, and the voltage across the resistor in accordance with Ohm's law will be equal to IR. So we can calculate the current in this particular circuit with the help of equation number 7.2. So the current will be equal to Vs divided by R. Why? Because Vs is equal to Vr. So this is a very simple electrical circuit. We know that electrical circuits are analogous to magnetic circuits. So let us consider a simple magnetic circuit now. So this is a very simple magnetic circuit. We assume that the mean length of this material is represented by L. The mean length of this material is represented by L. The permeability of this material is represented by mu, and the cross-sectional area of this material is represented by A. So you see, we consider a rectangular ring over here. The mean length of the material is represented by small l. The permeability of this material is represented by mu, and the cross-sectional area of this material is represented by A. We place a winding of n number of turns on this material. There is a current of I ampere in this winding. So the current in the winding will generate the magnetic flux, and this magnetic flux will flow in this magnetic circuit in the given direction. So the MMF in this particular case will be equal to Ni. So the number of turns of this winding multiplied by the current in the winding will give you MMF, and MMF generates the magnetic flux. This magnetic flux will circulate in the clockwise direction in the given magnetic circuit. We know that the magnetic field intensity at any point in this magnetic circuit is directly proportional to the number of turns of this winding. By increasing the number of turns of this winding, the magnetic field intensity at any point in the given magnetic circuit will increase. Similarly, the magnetic field intensity is directly proportional to the current in the winding. If you increase the current in the winding, the current in the coil, the magnetic field intensity will increase. Well, this magnetic field intensity is inversely proportional to the mean length of the magnetic material of this magnetic circuit. So if you increase the mean length of this material, the magnetic field intensity will decrease. So let us consider this mathematical relationship on the next slide. So the magnetic field intensity is directly proportional to the number of turns of the winding. It is directly proportional to the current in the winding, and it is inversely proportional to the mean length of the winding. The constant of proportionality in this particular case is 1. So if the constant of proportionality in this particular case is 1, the magnetic field intensity will be equal to Ni divided by L. So the magnetic field intensity at any point in the given magnetic circuit will be equal to Ni divided by L. So if we simplify this equation, Ni will be equal to HL, where Ni is known as MMF. So MMF is responsible for the creation of the magnetic flux. So the MMF will be equal to Ni, and this MMF will also be equal to HL. Now we know that Ni is basically equal to MMF. So the MMF in this magnetic circuit will be equal to Ni or HL. We know that H is equal to B by mu, and we know that B is equal to the flux per unit area. So if we put this value of the magnetic flux density in this particular equation, we get H over here, and H will be equal to the magnetic flux over mu A. So we put this value of H in this particular equation. We put this value of H in this particular equation. So MMF will be equal to flux into L by mu A. Okay. Well, L by mu A is known as the reluctance of the material of the magnetic circuit, and due to this property, the material will oppose the flow of magnetic circuit. So if we put this value in equation number 7.4, we get the MMF in this particular circuit, and MMF will be equal to the flux multiplied by the resistance. We know that MMF is analogous to the voltage. MMF is analogous to the voltage. Flux is analogous to the current, and reluctance is analogous to the resistance. So in a simple electrical circuit, V is equal to IR. Similarly, in a simple magnetic circuit, MMF is equal to phi R. We can calculate the magnetic flux from equation number 7.5. Okay, the flux from the equation number 7.5 will be equal to MMF divided by the reluctance of this particular circuit. So this is an equivalent magnetic circuit of the given magnetic circuit. The MMF is represented by this particular source, and we know that MMF is equal to Ni. The reluctance of the material is represented by this symbol, and the reluctance will be equal to R. The MMF in this magnetic circuit will generate the magnetic flux, and the magnetic flux will circulate in this magnetic circuit. So you see, if we apply a law which is analogous to KVL to this particular loop, MMF in this particular loop, MMF in this particular loop will be equal to MMF1. If we apply a law which is analogous to KVL to this loop, MMF will be equal to MMF1, and MMF will be equal to phi R in this particular magnetic circuit. So this is how we analyze a simple magnetic circuit. This is how we calculate, you see, the reluctance in this simple magnetic circuit. This is how we calculate the magnetic flux in this simple magnetic circuit, and this is how we calculate the MMF in this simple magnetic circuit. Now we consider a series magnetic circuit, and we know that magnetic circuits are analogous to electrical circuits. So let us consider this series circuit, and we apply KVL to this series circuit. According to KVL, the voltage across the source will be equal to voltage across the resistor R1 plus voltage across the resistor R2 plus voltage across the resistor R3. So we obtain equation number 7.6 with the help of KVL. The source voltage is equal to V1 plus V2 plus V3. We know that V1 will be equal to IR1, V2 will be equal to IR2, and V3 will be equal to IR3. So we put all these values in equation number 7.6. If I put all these values in equation number 7.6, if I put all these values in equation number 7.6, we obtain this particular equation. So putting the values of V1, V2 and V3 in equation number 7.6, we obtain this particular equation. Vs will be equal to I into R1 plus R2 plus R3, where R1 plus R2 plus R3 is the total resistance of this series combination. So you guys can calculate the total resistance of this series combination if the current in this series combination is known and voltage across the source is known. Similarly, if the total resistance of the circuit is known and the voltage across the source is known, you guys can calculate the current. So let us consider a simple series magnetic circuit. We consider a series magnetic circuit over here. There are three materials in this magnetic circuit, here is material number 1. So this is material number 1. We assume that the mean length of this material is L1, the permeability of material number 1 is mu1, and the cross-sectional area of material number 1 is A1. So this is material number 1. We consider this gap, which is material number 2, right? So we assume that the mean length of the air gap is L2, the permeability of the gap is mu2, and the cross-sectional area of this gap is A2. So we consider this gap as material number 2. The mean length of this material is L2, the permeability of this material is mu2, and the cross-sectional area, the effective area of the air gap is A2. And then we consider material number 3. This is material number 3. So we assume that the mean length of material number 3 is represented by L3. The cross-sectional area of material number 3 is represented by A3, and the permeability of material number 3 is represented by mu3. We place a winding of n number of turns on the first material of this series magnetic circuit. There is a current of I ampere in this coil. The current in this coil will generate the magnetic flux, and this magnetic flux will flow in this direction in the given series circuit. So the MMF will be equal to Ni. So now what we do, we consider the reluctance of material number 1, the reluctance of material number 2, and the reluctance of material number 3, and all these three materials are in series. Why? Because the same magnetic flux will flow in all these three materials. So we consider material number 1. The mean length of material number 1 is L1, the cross-sectional area of material number 1 is A1, the permeability of material number 1 is mu1. So the reluctance of the first material is equal to L1 over mu1 A1. We consider material number 2, which is the air gap. We assume that the main length of the air gap is L2, the cross-sectional or the effective area of the air gap is A2, the permeability of the air gap is mu2. If we know these three quantities, we can calculate the reluctance of the gap, and the reluctance of the air gap will be equal to L2 over mu2 A2. We consider material number 3. The mean length of material number 3 is L3, the cross-sectional area of material number 3 is A3, and the permeability of material number 3 is mu3. We can calculate the reluctance of material number 3 with the help of this particular equation. The reluctance of material number 3 will be equal to L3 over mu3A3. So we know the reluctance of material number 1, the reluctance of material number 2, and the reluctance of material number 3. Let us consider the equivalent circuit of the given series magnetic circuit. So this is the equivalent magnetic circuit. You see, obviously this magnetic circuit is a series magnetic circuit. The same magnetic flux will flow through material number 1, material number 2, and material number 3. So you see the source, which is basically represented by this circle, will be represent MMF, and MMF in this particular case will be equal to Ni. So the reluctance of the first material is represented by R1, the reluctance of the second material is represented by R2, and the reluctance of material number 3 is represented by R3. And you see the same magnetic flux will flow through this series magnetic circuit. You see the MMF, which is responsible for the magnetic flux of phi Weber in the first material, is MMF1. The MMF2, which is responsible for the magnetic flux of phi Weber in material number 2, is represented by MMF2, and the MMF, which is responsible for the magnetic flux of phi Weber in material number 3, is represented by MMF3. You see, MMF is analogous to voltage, and flux is analogous to current. So MMF in this particular circuit will be equal to Ni. Now what we do, we apply a law to this loop, which is analogous to KVL. We cannot apply KVL to this particular loop. This is why we use the word analogous. So we apply a law to this loop, which is analogous to a KVL. So according to this law, the total MMF in this particular loop will be equal to MMF1 plus MMF2 plus MMF3, and this equation is analogous to equation number 7.6. So that equation is analogous to this particular equation. The total MMF in the series magnetic circuit will be equal to MMF1 plus MMF2 plus MMF3. So MMF is analogous to Vs, MMF1 is analogous to V1, MMF2 is analogous to V2, MMF3 is analogous to V3, right? So equation number 7.6 is analogous to this particular equation. Okay, now we know that MMF1 will be equal to phi R1, MMF2 will be equal to phi R2, MMF3 will be equal to phi R3. If I put the values of MMF1, MMF2 and MMF3 in this particular equation, I put the values of MMF1, MMF2 and MMF3 in this particular equation. If I put the values in this particular equation, I obtain equation number 7.15. So the total MMF will be equal to phi and phi will be equal to the total MMF will be equal to phi into R1 plus R2 plus R3. R1 plus R2 plus R3 is known as the total reluctance of this series magnetic circuit. So you see, you guys can find out any quantity in this particular equation. If the remaining two quantities are known, you guys can calculate MMF. If the magnetic flux and the total reluctance of the circuit is known, you guys can calculate the magnetic flux in this series magnetic circuit if MMF and the total reluctance of the circuit is known, and so on. So this was a simple series magnetic circuit. Let us consider a parallel circuit. So we consider this particular parallel circuit. Okay, we have got a voltage source over here, we have got a resistance R1 over here, we have got a resistance R2 over here, and we have got a resistance R3 over here. So the total current in this particular parallel circuit is I. The total current divides into two parts at this particular node. The current in this branch is I1 and the current in this branch is I2. The voltage across the resistor R1 is V1, the voltage across the resistor R2 is V2, and the voltage across the resistor R3 is V3. So if we apply KCL to this node, according to KCL, the total current will be equal to I1 plus I2. Right? Now we apply KVL to loop number 1. According to KVL, Vs will be equal to V1 plus V2. So we apply KVL to loop number 1. According to KVL, Vs will be equal to V1 plus V2. And if we apply KVL to loop number 2, according to KVL, V2 will be equal to V3. So we apply KVL to loop number 2 and we obtain this particular equation, V2 will be equal to V3. So V1 will be equal to IR1, V2 will be equal to I1 R2, and V3 will be equal to I2 R3. Let us consider this circuit. Let us consider this particular circuit. V1 will be equal to IR1, V2 will be equal to I1 R2, and V3 will be equal to I2 R3. Right? So this is a parallel circuit. Now we consider a parallel magnetic circuit. So let us consider this particular circuit. You see, this is material number 1. This is material number 1. We assume that the mean length of this material is L1. The permeability of this material is mu2, and the cross-sectional area of material number 1 is A1. Here is material number 2. This is material number 2. So we assume that the mean length of this material number 2 is L2. The permeability of this material is mu2, and the cross-sectional area of this material is A3. We consider material number 3. So here is material number 3. We assume that the mean length of material number 3 is L3, the cross-sectional area of material number 3 is A3, and the permeability of this material is mu3. So the material number 1 is known as the left limb of this magnetic circuit. Material number 2 is known as the central limb of this parallel magnetic circuit, and material number 3 is known as the right limb of this parallel magnetic circuit. We place a winding of n number of turns on the first material. There is a current of I ampere in this coil. This coil will generate a magnetic flux of 5 Weber in the first material. We have got a node over here. So the total magnetic flux divide into two parts at this particular node. The magnetic flux in material number 2 is represented by phi 1, and the magnetic flux in material number the magnetic flux in material number 3 is represented by phi 2. So the magnetic flux in material number 3 is represented by phi 2. So what we do, we apply a law to this node which is analogous to KCL. Keep it in your mind that you guys cannot apply KCL to this particular node. We can apply a law which is analogous to KCL. So if we apply a law which is analogous to KCL, we obtain this particular equation. The total magnetic flux in this particular circuit will be equal to phi 1 plus phi 2, and equation number 7.20 is analogous to this particular equation. The total current in the given electrical circuit was equal to I1 plus I2. So equation number 20 is analogous to this particular equation. Okay, now we consider material number 1, which is known as the left limb of the magnetic circuit. Mean length of this material is L1, cross-sectional area of this material is A1, the permeability of this material is μ1. So we can calculate the reluctance of the first material, which is equal to L1 over μ1 A1. So the first material is known as left limb of the magnetic circuit, and here is the reluctance of the left limb of the magnetic circuit. We consider material number 2, which is known as the central limb of the magnetic circuit. The mean length of this material is L2, the cross-sectional area of this material is A2, and the permeability of this material is μ2. So we can calculate the reluctance of this material with the help of this particular equation. R2 will be equal to L2 over μ2 A2. We consider material number 3, which is known as the right limb of the parallel magnetic circuit. The mean length of this material is L3. The cross-sectional area of this material is A3, and the permeability of this material is μ3. So we can calculate the reluctance of this material with the help of this particular equation. R3 will be equal to L3 over μ3 A3. We consider the equivalent circuit of our parallel magnetic circuit. If you remember, we have a coil of n number of turns in the first material of the magnetic circuit. So MMF is represented by this particular circle, and this MMF will be equal to Ni. The reluctance of the first material is represented by R1. The reluctance of the left limb of the magnetic circuit is represented by R1, and you see there is a magnetic flux of phi Weber in the left limb of the given magnetic circuit. The reluctance of the central limb of this magnetic circuit is represented by R2, and the magnetic flux in the central limb of the given magnetic circuit is phi 1 Weber. Similarly, the reluctance of the right limb of the given magnetic circuit is R3, and the magnetic flux in this particular limb is phi 2. So if we apply a law which is if we apply a law to this node which is analogous to KCL, according to this law, the total magnetic flux in this magnetic circuit will be equal to phi 1 plus phi 2. You see, the total MMF is in loop number 1, which will be equal to Ni. You see, the MMF, which is responsible to maintain a magnetic flux of phi Weber in the first material, is represented by MMF1. Similarly, the MMF, which is responsible to maintain a magnetic flux of phi 1 Weber in the central limb, is represented by MMF2, and the MMF, which is required to maintain a magnetic flux of phi 2 Weber in the right limb of the magnetic circuit, is represented by MMF3. So what we do, we consider loop number 1 and we apply a law to loop number 1, which is analogous to KVL. So according to this law, the total MMF in loop number 1 will be equal to MMF1 plus MMF2, and we know that MMF is analogous to voltage, and this equation is analogous to this particular equation. We discussed this particular equation in the electrical circuit. The voltage across the source will be equal to the voltage across the resistor R1 plus the voltage across the resistor R2. So this equation is analogous to Vs is equal to V1 plus V2. Now what we do, we apply a law to this particular loop, which is analogous to KVL. So we apply a law to this loop, which is analogous to KVL, and according to this law, MMF2 will be equal to MMF3, and this equation is analogous to this equation. V2 is equal to V3. So we obtain these two equations in the given magnetic circuit. Okay, we know that the total MMF will be equal to Ni. So the total MMF will also be equal to MMF1 plus MMF3. Why? Because we know that MMF2 in loop number 2 is equal to MMF3 in loop number 2. We know that MMF2 is equal to MMF3. So if we put the value of MMF2 in equation number 7.22, we obtain equation number 7.23. MMF will be equal to MMF1 plus MMF3. We know that MMF1 will be equal to phi R1, MMF2 will be equal to phi 1 R2, and MMF3 will be equal to phi 2 R3. Let us consider this particular circuit. You see, MMF1 will be equal to phi R1, MMF2 will be equal to phi 1 R2, and MMF3 will be equal to phi 2 R3, right? So we can calculate MMF1 with the help of phi R1, we can calculate MMF2 with the help of phi 1 R2, and we can calculate MMF3 with the help of phi 2 R3. So this is a parallel magnetic circuit. We consider the single phase transformer. You see, here is the primary winding of the single phase transformer, and here is the secondary winding of the single phase transformer. This material is known as the core of the transformer. So you see, this is the core of the transformer. This is the core of this single phase AC transformer. The number of turns of the primary winding is N1, and the number of turns of the secondary winding is N2. We apply an AC voltage across the primary winding. There will be an AC current in the primary winding. We know that the AC current varies sinusoidally, so the current in the primary winding will be equal to Im1 sine of omega t. You see, this current will generate a magnetic flux of 5 Weber. The current in the primary winding will generate a magnetic flux of 5 Weber. The core provides a path of low reluctance to this magnetic flux, so this magnetic flux will circulate in the core of the transformer. So the magnetic flux which is generated by the current in the primary winding will circulate in this particular core. Why? Because the core provides a path of low reluctance to the flow of this magnetic flux. You see, the primary winding is located in its own time varying magnetic field, and if we place a winding of n number of turns in a time varying magnetic field, voltage will be induced across this winding in accordance with Faraday's law. So the induced voltage is represented by E1. So according to Faraday's law, E1, which is the voltage, which is the induced voltage across the primary coil or the primary winding of this transformer, will be equal to N1 d phi by dt. The magnetic flux is generated by the current in the primary winding, and the current in the primary winding varies sinusoidally with respect to time. So definitely the nature of the magnetic flux will depend upon the nature of the primary current. As the primary current varies sinusoidally with respect to time, so this magnetic flux will vary sinusoidally with respect to time. So this is the instantaneous equation for the magnetic flux which circulates either in the clockwise direction or in the counterclockwise direction in the core of the transformer. So the voltage which is induced across the primary winding of the single phase transformer can be calculated with the help of this particular equation. What we do, we put the value of the magnetic flux in this particular equation, and we differentiate the magnetic flux with respect to time. If we differentiate it with respect to time, the induced voltage across the primary winding will be equal to N1 omega phi m sine of omega t plus 90 degree. So excuse me, you see, here is the maximum voltage across the primary winding. We know that the AC voltage varies sinusoidally with respect to time. This AC voltage has a maximum or peak value, and it has a phase angle which is 90 in this particular case. If we apply KVL to loop number 1, if we apply KVL to loop number 1, according to KVL, V1 will be equal to E1. So we apply KVL to loop number 1, and according to KVL, V1 will be equal to E1. So V1 will be equal to N1 into omega into phi m into sine of omega t plus 90 degree. So V1 leads the current I1 by 90 degree. There is a phase difference of 90 degree between the current I1 and the voltage across the primary winding. So here is the maximum value of the primary voltage. If we multiply the maximum value of the primary voltage by 0.707, we get the RMS value of the primary voltage. So the RMS value of the primary voltage will be equal to 0.707 N1 omega phi m. This is how we calculate the RMS value of the primary voltage. Now see, we consider the secondary winding of this single phase transformer. The secondary winding is located in a time varying magnetic flux, in a time varying magnetic field. So if we place a winding or a coil in a time varying magnetic field, voltage will be induced across this winding. So the time varying magnetic field or the time varying magnetic flux will generate a voltage across this winding, which is represented by E2. This time varying magnetic flux will induce a voltage across this winding, which is represented by E2. So according to Faraday's law, the voltage which is induced across the secondary winding of this transformer can be calculated with the help of this particular equation. E2 will be equal to N2 d phi by dt. We put the value of the magnetic flux in this particular equation and we differentiate the magnetic flux. So E2 will be equal to N2 omega phi m sine of omega t plus 90 degree, and here is the maximum value of this secondary voltage. Now we apply KVL to the secondary loop of this particular transformer. If we apply KVL to this particular secondary loop, E2 will be equal to V2. So E2 is equal to V2, as E2 is equal to V2. So if we apply KVL to the secondary loop of this single phase transformer, V2 will be equal to E2. So V2 is equal to N2 omega phi m sine of omega t plus 90 degree, and here is the maximum value of the secondary voltage. We multiply this maximum value by 0.707 to get the RMS value of the secondary voltage. So this is the RMS value of the secondary voltage. Now what we do, if we divide V1 by V2, we get N1 by N2, right? This is your homework. Just divide V1 by V2. So what is V1? V1 is 0.7707 N1 omega phi m. This is V1. Similarly, V2 is 0.707 N2 omega, and then we have the maximum flux. So this is equal to V2. So you see, if we divide V1 by V2, we will get N1 by N2. Okay, so V1 by V2 will be equal to N1 by N2, and V2 will be equal to N2 by N1 V1. Now we also know that V1 into I1 will be equal to V2 into I2. Okay, the power on the primary side will be equal to the power on the secondary side under ideal condition. So if we rearrange this particular equation, V1 by V2, which is basically equal to N1 by N2, will be equal to I2 by I1. This is another equation for you guys, and this is the symbol of the single phase transformer. we will do the numerical questions in the upcoming class.